Okay, so like imagine this. You're building some big complex web application, right? The kind that businesses rely on. But instead of it feeling like, this massive undertaking with a million decisions, it's more like you're snapping together a really, really powerful set of Legos. And these Legos, they come with like built-in X-ray vision, so you can see how everything's running, especially out there in the cloud. That's the kind of power we're talking about when we combine .NET Aspire and the ABP framework, right?
And that's what's so cool about this is like you have these two frameworks and each one is super powerful on its own.
Yeah.
But when you put them together, man, they just elevate each other.
Yeah.
So you've got .NET Aspire, which is all about that robust cloud native approach. So from the get-go, you're building with observability in mind.
Yeah.
And then you bring ABP framework into the mix. And that gives you this like really solid modular foundation that's like purpose-built for those big enterprise web apps.
So it's like ABP is giving you the blueprint, right, and all the building blocks. And then .NET Aspire comes along and it's like, here's your hard hat.
Yeah.
Here's your safety glasses. Oh, and here's this really awesome drone so you can get a bird's eye view of the entire project.
Yeah, exactly.
And the best part is we're not just, talking theory here. We're actually diving into a blog post from Berkan Shashmaz. He's a developer over at Volasoft. And he's out there in the trenches using this combo to build some really cool stuff.
I love that he's actually like out there doing the work
Mm-hmm.
because, he's running into the issues that you would run into, the compatibility, all that, which we'll get into.
Yeah, for sure. But before we get into the nitty-gritty, right, let's take a step back for anyone who might be new to one or both of these frameworks. So .NET Aspire, what's like the big deal with it? What makes it different from just any other framework out there?
So the cool thing about .NET Aspire is it takes what they call an opinionated approach,
Okay.
which sounds kind of funny at first, right?
Yeah.
Like, who are you to tell me? But
It's opinionated, yeah.
yeah. But it's actually really helpful because it basically says, look, if you want to build applications that are, easy to observe, ready for production, and, designed to work in these distributed environments, here's the best way to do it. Like the most efficient, most streamlined way to do it. So, it's like having that expert guide you along.
Yeah, it's like having a really, really good architect, whispering in your ear, guiding you through the entire design. Like, don't put that wall there. You're going to regret it.
Right. Exactly.
Okay, that makes sense. That
Yeah.
makes sense. So I'm starting to see why developers are getting pretty excited about .NET Aspire, right? But then why use it specifically with ABP framework? Why not just let .NET Aspire do its thing?
Because, this is where the magic really happens, that combination.
Mm.
ABP framework already has a really great foundation for like building those larger scale web applications. It's all about, having these reusable components, having the modularity, and using those best practices so you're not reinventing the wheel. So it speeds up development, which, everyone wants to do.
Right, of course. Time is money.
Exactly.
So it's not like, one or the other. It's like you're taking the best of both worlds, right?
Yeah.
Combining them to create something that's even better than the sum of its parts.
Exactly. It's like,
Yeah.
You've got this well-oiled machine with ABP, everything's efficient. It's already set up for you.
Mm-hmm.
And then .NET Aspire comes in and it's like, okay, now we're going to take that well-oiled machine and launch it into space.
Right. And it's cool because Berkan actually gets into the weeds in this blog post. He
Right.
walks through how to actually build an ABP solution. And then he's like, okay, now here's how you sprinkle in that .NET Aspire magic.
Yeah. And he doesn't pretend like it's always, sunshine and roses. He actually talks about running into some compatibility issues,
Yeah.
like trying to get certain database components to play nicely together. It wasn't just like plugging in, 2 Lego bricks and boom, you're done.
So even in this world of cutting edge frameworks, there's still a little bit of that trial and error, figuring things out as you go.
Oh, absolutely. But you see, this is where it gets really interesting, right? So Berkan, he digs into this problem and he figures out that the root of it is in how .NET Aspire handles this thing called registration.
Registration. Okay, what's it like? Registration in .NET Aspire world.
So think of it like this. Registration is basically how .NET Aspire keeps track of all the moving parts in your application, like
Yeah.
your web UI, the API, how you're talking to the database, everything. So it can manage all of that stuff,
Yeah.
especially in a cloud environment where things can get kind of wild.
So it's like introducing each piece of your application to the .NET Aspire orchestra so they can all play together, in harmony.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly. That's a great way to put it. Now, ABP, it has its own way of organizing and configuring these components. So you've got these two systems, each with its own conductor and sheet music, and you're trying to get them to play the same symphony, right?
Oh, I see where you're going with this.
So there's a bit of a clash.
Yeah, that sounds like a recipe for maybe a little bit of chaos.
Right, exactly.
So how did he, like, resolve this? Did he have to, like, rewrite huge chunks of code?
Well, he actually found kind of a clever workaround. He basically added a few specific lines of code to his project to this one file called program.cs. I won't bore you with the details, but basically this code acted as a translator between .NET Aspire and the ABP stuff.
Ah, so it's like whispering to both of them so they can finally, like, understand each other.
Exactly.
And that's the thing, right? Like, it sounds like to really use these tools effectively, you kind of need that deep understanding of what's going on under the hood.
Oh, absolutely. And it really makes you think about, those trade-offs that you make when you do those workarounds.
These are the kinds of questions that, like, keep developers up at night, right?
Right.
So how do we, like, strike that balance? We want to use all these cool new tools, but we also don't want to paint ourselves into a corner, you know?
Oh, yeah, it's tough because there's no easy answer. Every situation is going to be a little different. But I think even if, like, a workaround feels a little hacky at first,
Yeah.
just the process of understanding why you need it, that can teach you a lot.
Yeah.
Like by really digging into these frameworks, seeing how they work, where they, agree and disagree. I don't know, it's like you reach this new level, right? You're not just following the instructions anymore. You're like understanding the why behind it all.
Right. It reminds me of, like, learning to fix your own car. You might not be a mechanic, but you start to get a feel for how all the parts work together.
Exactly, exactly. And it makes me think about like the bigger picture of software development, right? Because we're moving toward these really specialized, really powerful tools. So it's not enough to just be able to, write the code. You've got to be able to understand all these systems, integrate them, customize them.
It's like being a conductor, right? You're
Yeah.
not just playing one instrument, you're orchestrating this whole, symphony of software.
I like that. That's a great analogy.
Yeah.
And it's cool to see how it like connects back to what Birkin was doing. He hit this roadblock, dove deep into the problem, and then came out of it not just with a solution, but with like a deeper understanding of these frameworks. It's pretty inspiring, right?
Totally. It's like that saying, what is it? Smooth seas never made a skilled sailor. It's those moments where we're challenged, where we have
Good.
to figure things out.
Yeah,
That's how we grow.
100%. And as we keep moving more and more into this world of cloud native development, I think we're going to see a lot more of that. More situations where we have to blend different technologies, get creative with our solutions. And honestly, I think that's where things get really exciting.
Yeah, it's like we're entering this new era of software development, and the most valuable skill is being able to solve those really tough problems, those really interesting problems. So to wrap things up, I want to leave everyone with this thought. We've seen how .NET Aspire and ABP can work together, but what other cool combinations are out there? What's that next, power couple of frameworks just waiting to be discovered? Something for everyone to think about.
And who knows, maybe we'll be diving into some of those combinations on a future episode, right?
Absolutely.